everybody, and welcome to today's episode of The Citizen's View. I'm your host, Robert Hebert, and this is nwieducate.com. Today's guest is Elizabeth. Today we'll be talking a continuation of the subject matter at hand, which is this the new norm? In today's society, we have a plethora of topics to discuss when it comes to is this the new norm, from violence, crime, drug, immigration, education, health. Today, let's just pick a topic. And today, let's talk about are we in a society right now, Elizabeth, where the needs of the few now outweigh the needs of the many? Whereas, when you're building a country, it's about trying to build what's right for the vast majority. You always try to shoot for what's good for everybody, but that seems of an impossibility. Do we live in a society right now, in your opinion, where the needs of the few outweigh the needs of many? We have 237 million Americans as of the last census, and somehow we are, instead of focusing on feeding the hungry, working on our failing education, medical, healthcare systems, crime rates, we're more concerned with whether a million people want to be a man, woman, or whatever they want to be classified as. Not to say that they are discredited. However, should the government be focusing on these things instead of feeding our hungry or building our educational system, working on our crime rates or mass shootings? Is it worth our energy, the federal government's energy, or is it a state's problem? What do you think? I know it's a pretty major subject.
Well, I think you're right, and I think the government has lost focus on where they should be putting their efforts, and a lot of the stuff they are focused on should be left to the states.
We were discussing this earlier, Lester and I, when we were talking about, a problem that a town is having in, Bodunk, any place in the United States. The best person to solve the problems in the town are the town, because they know what's going on and they know the dynamic of the town. Same thing with the counties, same thing with the states. But we seem to have everybody running to the government to solve every little problem, and it's diluting the ability of the governments to have any effectiveness on any key subjects, which is, from our rebuilding our education system, our healthcare plans, our, the minimum wage crisis. When we're talking about the job crisis, we're focusing more on whether, not to say that it's not important, but we're focusing on certain key issues here. Gun control. Gun control has been around since the founding of our country. Easy access to weapons? When has it not been easy access to weapons? But all of a sudden today, it becomes the solution to everything, like it's some kind of a new subject matter. We, for our gun control, utilizing that as a subject, it's not, we stop worrying about what the intent of the person is. Look, how many times have we seen mass shootings where they say, oh yeah, man, I could have bet that guy would have, if anybody spent 5 minutes with this guy, they would have known he was a mass shooter. But yet they focus on taking away the guns because they don't want to focus on the key flags that when somebody's losing control, or we don't want to deal with the major issues. As American people, we try to put it all on the government. They say, Uncle Sam, please take away all this. I don't want to deal with the problem. So, in my opinion, we've had a 50-year Cold War only for everybody to want socialism and communism. Well, the only answer that I have to that is move to Russia. If you don't like it, leave it. But, what is your opinion? Is this the new norm? Is this the new norm where the subject matter that has no real relevance to the country? It's important. All subject matter is important if it's important to somebody. But in terms of running a nation, we're steering away from the subjects that are, the problems that are important. Is that the truth, or am I just, what do you think?
I think we are heading in that direction. I think we've been heading in that direction for a while.
Well, definitely we're spiraling out of control in a lot of areas. We keep going back to building a wall. Well, Germany built the wall. Russia built the wall in Germany, east and west, and how'd that work out? That was a 96, 97 mile wall. That was a good test for 60 years. It did nothing, in my opinion. Building a wall says one thing, I fear you. And if we're supposed to be the most powerful country in the world, is sending a message saying, I fear you, the message that we want to send. right now, do you really honestly believe a wall is going to solve the problems of drugs or immigration?
Where there's a will, there's a way.
That's right. Where there's a will, there's a way. If you build a wall, all you're doing is giving somebody an obstacle in which to find a way around. You can go over the wall, under the wall, around the wall, through the wall. I mean, why build the wall? You know what I mean? Why find out? Why? Here's an idea. Let's work on immigration. You know, but let's work on policy and international immigration laws and work with the countries of the that we're having the largest problem with. But hey, that's too easy of a solution. Let's build a wall and just forget about negotiation with anybody. Let's forget about building relationships, which is what strengthens everybody by working together and developing unity. Let's forget about all that. Let's just build a wall. Instead, we're already a bankrupt nation, technically speaking, but let's go spend money on something we don't have, so it does nothing, but we can declare, hey, I built the wall. It would be better just to take build a 6-foot high or a 10-foot high piece of cardboard and just run it 2,000 miles on the border. There you can say, Mr. President, you built the wall,
With the budget.
and it has the same impact. But what are your thoughts? On this, you elaborate. Is this the new norm in America, where the important subjects don't matter anymore? Everybody complains about the subject matter, but they want us to focus their attention on the smaller subjects. Don't get me wrong; all subjects are important if they're relevant to somebody, But the problem is that the death of one child is as difficult as it may be in terms of running a nation. That is a state's problem. That is a city's problem. That is the town in which it happens problem. And those are the issues. Those are the places that needs to focus for reform or anything. You should not have the federal government should not be getting involved with the act of a single person. It's the federal government. It's not its job. And by trying to make it its job, you're deflecting its ability to operate efficiently in terms of solving the greater problems that need to be solved. And what are your thoughts on that, Beth?
Well, you already know how I feel about big government.
I know how you feel, but they don't. So tell me how you feel.
I just, the government is trying to control everything. I don't agree with it.
Mm-hmm. No, don't talk too much now. Don't elaborate too much. I'm getting overwhelmed here with your chatterbox.
Again, you knew how I feel about politics.
Well, I do, but they don't. Share with the world how you feel about politics. Are politics today the same as it used to be in the 1950s?
No.
When Truman left office, he didn't have a fanfare. Matter of fact, he had to get a cab from the White House to the subway, and then him and his wife took a subway home. No Secret Service, no nothing. 6 months after office, he applied for Social Security because he couldn't afford to live at that point in time. This is a president who was the first to address with labor union strikes. He was the first to drop the atomic bomb. He had to take a cab from the White House and then apply for Social Security 6 months later. Everything that he did was for the country, by the country, and of the country. The people came first, regardless whether he was a Democrat, Republican. It was the needs of our nation that came first. Eisenhower was the same thing. In Eisenhower's day, when he left office just before Kennedy, his entire farewell address was on the problems of the military-industrial complex. He knew, because being a military man, obviously, he knew that corruption was rampant, and it was hard to, once the Pandora's box was opened, to reclose that box. When you have the government, we're constantly putting more and more and more power in our government's hands because we're scared to solve the problems on our own. We as an American people used to take pride in problem solving. Intelligent people can solve problems. Creative people can prevent them from happening. So if we're working on these problems, we're becoming a society where we don't want to think about it. The problems are so grievous, their problems are so horrific that I want somebody else to deal with them. And because of that, we've opened Pandora's box and given the power to people who don't deserve that power. They don't deserve the respect that we entrusted them with. And what do? We continually feed them more because we don't want to deal with it. So we choose that, or we select that as the lesser of two evils. What are your thoughts on that, Pat?
I agree.
Well, don't elaborate too much. Yeah, you know, I don't want this to be a one-sided conversation. You don't have to agree with me. Disagree with me just for the sake of disagreeing with me. No, Bob, I don't agree with you, even though I do. But hey, I don't agree with you. No, just kidding. You know, and we after, you know, between Eisenhower and Kennedy, I think that's where it started going. You know, book deals, larger incomes. Instead of having, you know, where they took from the Social Security Fund and created the Congressional Retirement Fund. These issues have become the new norm. Presidents retiring on $1 million deals. Instead of being for the people, of the people, and by the people, they're more for themselves, by themselves, and of themselves. And that seems to be the trend with all politicians. We're focusing on issues that are non-relevant to the country as a whole. I'm not trying to negate the importance of the individual subject matters. You know, when we're talking about the I don't know what the LGBT, is that what it is? I don't want to negate the importance of that to the individual, but as a country, those issues should be states, counties, and towns to do that. That we have millions of hungry to feed, children that aren't getting the education they need, or inoculations they need, or medical treatment they need, medical care, and dealing with all of the other issues that have come about. We're focusing on the stuff that doesn't matter in terms of running a nation. These things, when we're worried about what bathroom to have or bathrooms to use, or we're worrying about a single individual, that single individual matters, don't get me wrong, but in terms of a nation, the energies and focus and resources of that nation must be on the greater good for the greater people. So that individuals' problems must be in towns, counties, and states' issues. And I think we've diluted who has to handle what, and whose purpose and whose job descriptions are important for whatever subject matter. If you have a key problem, you got to bring it to the right people. Everybody's just running to the government as a whole, and it's deflecting the ability for the government to run effectively. Do you agree or disagree, or what are your thoughts?
I agree again with the states handling a lot of these issues.
Do you agree that we're having a federal delusion of power, because everybody's just using the government as a fallback? Everything's just going to the government instead of determining what should be handled by the federal government or the president. Where everything is running through the president, everything is running to or to the government, the Congress, when really a lot of these issues need to be dealt with on a ground basis, where you have the town, the county, the city, the state. And because of that convolution, everything is going to the federal government. The federal government's energy, resources, and attention is being deflected off from solving or trying to work towards resolution of key issues that are destroying this country. You know, our education system, our healthcare system, our jobs. These issues are much more important than one individual. And I don't want to discredit that one individual, but in terms of a nation, that one individual is important to the state, the federal. But when it comes to in terms of running this country, it's not. You know, and that sounds heartless, but there's 327 million Americans. Everybody wants, you know, we have these people calling for gun control, but by certain estimates, there's 76 million gun owners in America. So if you have 1,000 people who commit crimes with guns, the vast majority, 99.999% of the people who own guns are law-abiding citizens. So we live in a country where you want to take all of the rights away from law-abiding citizens because of the crimes of a few. And, you know, instead of worrying about the intent of what causes the crime, so let's blame the car because the drunk guy decided to get behind the wheel and kill somebody. You know, let's blame the gun because somebody chose to pick it up and use it. You know, 99% of the people who own guns are law-abiding citizens. You know, this is America. We've moved into the needs of the few outweigh the needs of the many, which has caused the country to, you know, collapse, in my opinion, as far as the infrastructure goes. Do you agree or disagree? You know, the kicker is at home she elaborates much more than this.
I can't argue that. I mean, how can you not agree?
Well, there's many people that don't agree with me.
Well, I know, and everyone's entitled to their own opinion.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. It's interesting. Elizabeth, I want to thank you for being here. We're going to continue this podcast, and we want to really continually adjust this and bring on a roundtable. So I appreciate your feedback, and thank you for joining us here on Citizens View. This is your host, Robert Hebert, and brought to you by NWIeducate.com. Have a great day.